Welcome to yet another episode of Breaking Business Barriers, episode number 86. We're rounding. We'll be coming up on year number two, Jared. It's amazing. And so this is Brent Duhaime, your host, joined by with Ty, also known as Jared Ty. He is one of our co-hosts, and if you don't know, Jared is in the real estate business and has become a really good friend of mine over time. We met via, I guess, a referral via social media, and we had a lot of liking commons. And here he is, co-host of Breaking Business Barriers. Man, glad to have you. And oh, I better not forget. Also, our sponsor, American Option Insurance. Say if you need some insurance, you can look those guys up, American Option Insurance, and what states they operate in. Also, you can find the owner of the company, or the co-owner of the company, Brandon Strauss. I've known him since the late '90s, but good people over there. But Jared, man, was shaking.
Man, staying really busy. I'm really excited about our episode today. So we are kind of turning the tables, so to speak, and I am interviewing the interviewer. Guys, this will be really fun to learn about the host of Breaking Business Barriers, the founder, and pretty interesting guy, if I don't say so myself.
Well, we normally don't edit, so we may have to do some edits. I've not been on this side of the mic per se, but man, yeah, hit me with what you got, and we'll get after it. And once we're done, we have some people to thank. We've done previously 85 episodes, and certainly we've met a lot of really cool people, and which led them to a lot of cool places and what have you. So we'll wrap it up with that. And this time of year, which we're recording towards the end of the year, we're in December of 2020, and with that, there's a lot of reflection. But all right, JT, what do you got for me, man? Hit me hard.
Yeah, so I'd love to start with just your background. What can you tell us about your background for our listeners that don't know about you?
Well, I didn't know it at the time, but I grew up. How fortunate I was. I grew up in a little town called Elk Point, South Dakota. Small farming community in the southeastern, really the very southeastern tip of South Dakota. And literally, you could be in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota if you were driving, all within 15 minutes of where I grew up. I was actually born in Sioux City, Iowa, and looking back, it was a lot of hard work on a family farm. A lot of hours, and you expect to get good grades, which I did sometimes, and then work, did all the sports, all around the seasons, sports, and I can thank both my mom and dad for a work ethic, which there was really no, if you didn't get it done on the farm, then nobody else was going to do it for you, and so that led to going to college. I was the first one in my immediate family to go to college. I'm the oldest of, at the time, I had a sister and two brothers. Unfortunately, my sisters passed away at a very young age due to that darn cancer stuff. But life throws curveballs, and I graduated college, went to the big city of Des Moines, Iowa. And if people want to make fun of Des Moines, it's also known as the Mound. That's a French term for Des Moines. But I thought I was in the big city, died and gone to heaven, wearing a suit every day to work, and met a lot of incredible people along that path from Des Moines to I thought getting promoted meant moving, so I made sure we moved. I met my wife actually in Des Moines. She was going to med school, and she, luckily, I guess I was a good enough sales guy to, number one, call her my bride. But we also moved from Des Moines to Minneapolis. Coldest winter in Minneapolis history is the first year that we were married. So we enjoyed that. I think it snowed on Halloween that year, and the last snow being gone was like May. It was a long winter. But Topeka, Kansas, got promoted again. Kansas City, St. Louis, and then here in Texas. So luckily, I had a child born in Kansas, and I had one born in Missouri, and this has been home to them for the last almost 18 years. That's a long story, but man, there was a lot of travels in there and a lot of tribulations, no doubt about it.
What a cool background and such an American story. You hear about how hundreds of years ago, I don't know what the statistics were, but I want to say almost the majority of Americans were raised on farms, and a lot of people credit that to, or credit the work ethic of America to, those humble, beginnings. So how cool that you have, that background. What did you guys farm?
Corn and soybeans primarily, but a lot of different. Primarily, that's what it was, and then we had livestock and what have you. And I got to say, my brothers would say the same thing. My sister, she was a uh, speech pathologist, and then grew up farm raised as well. She was a girly girl though, even though she was on the farm. And I've got my youngest brother is a doctor of physical therapy, and then I've my brother, who is 360 days younger than I, is an agronomist, and he works in the corn and soybean business, and has done a wonderful job for his company for the last almost 20 something years now, but doing a good
That's
job.
super cool.
Yeah, man. And you
Yeah.
know what? We still love going back to the farm, Jared. And friends from the city always ask, "Hey, can I go with you?" Sure. But that whole thing today has changed. Yes, there's labor involved. There's no doubt about labor. But you sit in these great big pieces of equipment that are primarily all digital. I mean, it's like a whole NASA. It's like you're in a cockpit, and it really is like that.
Amazing.
And you're driving these great big machines, and through a field, you don't even have to steer it. It's GPS. You set all your coordinates, and you let it go. You get to the end of the field. You turn around and hit the button, and straight as an arrow.
So that song, "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy," has an all new meaning now, huh?
Yeah, my wife would probably agree with that, JT.
That's
When
awesome.
her first
So,
trip to the farm, I plunked her. It was in the fall, so my dad was doing some field work, and that little firecracker, she hopped right in there, and my dad took her for, I don't know how long. I drove away for a little while and came back, and I think she was still ready to stay out there in the tractor bouncing around.
what a great memory, man. So speaking of your beautiful bride, so you were out of college, you were wearing a suit in Des Moines, and you just made the biggest close of perhaps your entire life on your wife there. And what business did you get into? What did you do out of college?
I've been in the finance business my entire life. Jared, I've represented three three companies, two of which are or currently public, and one private company, and so I've kind of stayed in my lane, So whether it's uh, whether it's consumer finance type of things, or mortgage banking, also having a love for protecting customers as much as we can, the different parts of insurance. So that's, I've kind of stayed in my lane all these years.
That's awesome. So I assume you started out as an employee of a company
Yep, yep.
and did that. Of course, here at Breaking Business Barriers, we always like to talk about the fork in the road. Was there a point in your career that you said, you know what, I'm going to take a big risk, and I'm going to, burn the ships? And, was there a point in your career like that where you had to take a major risk?
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was about 13 years ago or so. I worked for a company called Norwest out of the gate. That it merged. Technically, it merged with Wells Fargo, but Norwest was larger, took the Wells Fargo brand name, and it was a great 15 years. I mean, it was. I met some wonderful people there, friends of mine today, mentors of mine yet today. But yeah, I had an itch that I thought we could do it better, and the only way to do that was jump out of the ivory tower and take a chance on myself. And
Yeah.
so, long story short, became a partner in a mortgage banking firm that actually started in 1992, but it was still tiny. There were like 4 employees, but I happened to know the founder of the company and said, "Hey, I had an idea. kicked it around for a while. So I actually invested into that company, got paid $0 until we started to grow. So the fork in the road for me was, let's get out of this great big corporate where, you know, where it's like a train trying to take a turn around the end of the block. Not real easy, right? So let's jump into a Porsche and make it happen. And that was it was a good gamble. There were some scary times, no doubt about it. But like anything else, taking a risk, decided to do it, and I had the support of friends and my bride and other families. So I did it, and away we went.
So you use the word scary. A lot of people would use the word terrifying
Yeah.
to go work for a company where you have no guarantee, until the company itself starts performing at a certain level. So when you did that, Brent, did you make that decision with your head or did you make that decision with your heart?
Well, I think, yeah, that's one of our other questions, right? And I think I'm doing the same thing almost everyone does. Sometimes it's a definitely with a head, but um, I would say a lot of it was calculated. I'm not risk adverse, but I just like to know what kind of risk is going to slap me. And but there's probably some hard stuff in there. That's probably what kept me going. Really
Yeah.
was the heart, and but going into it definitely was a head thought.
So I like your answer there. I like that, you didn't just go with your gut. I mean, it was calculated. So it sounds like it was your head and your heart there.
Yeah, it was, and there were some things I thought I had calculated, and there are other things I didn't. And there I went, as I mentioned, I felt like I went from the ivory tower to brown bag lunches, and but man, I learned so much, and the relationships along the way of people that I knew and trusted in me, and they began joining that company over time. At first I was criticized for what are you doing? Why are you leaving, an organization that, you started your career with, you're doing well, and I wasn't happy. I
Right.
wasn't happy, and I got criticized for a while. But my phone, funny enough, it started to ring more and more over time. We started to make some news, and publicly, and some really cool news in the industry, and all of a sudden my phone's ringing,
Right.
and a lot of those people are still there today, which is really cool. And I think
Right.
there's well over 600 people at that company today,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, a lot of good folks.
And that's, I'm going to brag on you for a minute here, man. I mean, you're kind of a big deal. The fact that, not one, but two, without going into too much detail, you've been a major part of two substantial companies that you have, essentially sold, but obviously can't go into too much detail there. But, what a cool story, that you took that risk and that it paid off in the end. And you were ultimately able to, sell. And now, you work in the mortgage industry still. And I imagine, you're able to work because you want to, versus working because you have to. And that's an awesome place to be. And I think that's a place that a lot of our listeners, strive to reach.
Yes, it's never easy, but this is all I really know outside of and what I do know. It's it's not farming. Farming's not
Yeah.
easy, and there's a glor. We see a lot of shows that that have ranchers and all that stuff, and it is fun, I'll tell you. But there are a lot of things that I don't know there when I go back, and I love to go back and help. But I am definitely a I'm definitely towing on someone's pant leg. Let's put it that way. Something goes wrong, I throw my hands up. I don't know what to do, but outside of
Cool.
making a call. But yeah, mortgage banking is what I know and what I enjoy. I can't imagine doing anything else, Jared. And work is a big playground.
Yeah.
As
I
long as
love that.
as long as we can be creative, surround ourselves with really really cool people, and that equals some pretty darn good freedom.
Yeah. So much fun, man. Well, I think you're a humble guy and you're a lot more, You know a lot more than you would tell people that you know, and that's just out of humility. So, hey, I want to ask you real quick about speaking of doing things for fun. Barbecue. I know you're a huge fan of barbecue, and I know that your grill probably gets more action than a lot of the rest of ours, or smoker. So, how long have you been a barbecue extraordinaire there?
As long as I can remember, and that's that all the way back to being a kid, grilling over a campfire, which was fun. It's probably the first place I technically grilled. And then, I was a member of a fraternity and loved to. We had a great big fire pit that we built outside, and I was one of the chefs out there working and enjoying every minute of it, along with some of the other guys. But really, as long as I can remember, Jared, and whether it's I've got a few different barbecues around here, but my love really uh, is really smoking. The different things you can do with that, and hey, it's being outside. I mean, my grill literally goes every single weekend, and I love to fire it up. It's being outside, even if it's a little chilly. We're fortunate being in Texas, both you and I. Weather isn't quite as rough on us like it will be in where I grew up in South Dakota or the Northern Plains. It gets a little rough barbecuing there.
Is that right? So, speaking of South Dakota, you still have a farm out there to this day. Is that right?
Yeah, family farm, Duhaime Farms, and fortunate to be able to go up there and do some things that we normally wouldn't be doing. And here in the city folk. And when my kids were growing up, they loved going up there. I mean, they were
Yeah,
outside just like we were. They weren't playing video games. They're outside,
yeah, love it.
and whatever mischief they could get into, and all the way as they got older, riding motorcycles and four wheelers and doing all that fun stuff. You can go outside, getting dirty. That they loved it. Even my city slicker wife from New York, she still likes to go up there and visit today. It's just a different life.
How often do you guys, in a normal year, when travel is less restricted, how often do you guys get out there?
Oh, as much as possible,
Yeah,
and at least a couple times a year. And it's fun. It's fun, and we spend some time. It's an easy flight, and believe it or not, it's only an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and
super fun.
direct. So that's it. It just makes it real easy. Otherwise, it's a 12-hour drive, and I've done that before.
Love it, love it. So, breaking business barriers. You said episode 80.
6, yeah.
86. That's awesome, man. In going on 2 years, I believe you said.
Yep.
So I imagine you've had some interviews that really stand out over that time. Some really fun interviews.
Yeah, there have been, Jared, and I think all of them are unique in their own way. We used to edit and throw some music on the bumpers on the front side and the back side. And really made a decision. I like it raw, and I think it's not a commercial. Really started this for one reason and one reason only, is we get to meet cool people.
Yeah,
And what I mean by meeting cool people, they don't have to be famous. Our last episode, we had someone that's famous, Tiger King. So if you haven't heard that one, folks, you definitely want to tune in to episode 85, because that was pretty cool. And Jared brought on that particular guest. But, there's been so many, whether it's local business or whether it's an aspiring entrepreneur that's in high school or college, real people. And, it's also led me to some places I never thought I'd be. One of which I've mentioned it on this podcast before is in a highest security prison in California. Thanks to Steve Sims, we volunteered to go in there for a day, and I won't get into it, but it was eye opening. In fact, it was scary. In fact, I've had two people that were housed there for their crimes that have been on breaking business barriers. One of which today is a business owner, both of which are on the straight and narrow. One is giving back into and helping people when they come out of prison. But amazing folks, and authors, and we try to keep it real. You and I are really our goal is to have real people They don't have to be extraordinarily, yeah, they don't have to be well known. But they can relate to people that maybe are thinking about opening their own business, or maybe opening another business, or they're toiling with their own fork in the road, because there are plenty of forks in the road. I know you've had that one big one that I know of. I've been part of your life because with that, but yeah, a lot of cool people, a lot of cool guest hosts, and we'll continue to do it. I have no intention on ever you or I turning this into a crumpled piece of paper, and it's too fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I've had a blast with it, and I, just really appreciate you allowing me to help out and help recruit people for the show. And I've just had so much fun. It's just, it's so amazing to learn just how humble so many successful people are. I was listening to another podcast yesterday, and they had a gentleman on who was hugely successful. And the host asked him, he said, what keeps you going? How do you hold it all together? And he said, gratitude. He said, waking up in the morning and realizing that, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to live in a great nation. I'm lucky to have basic rights. I'm lucky to be able to flip on a faucet and have water come out. And, that type of humility, that type of gratitude is something that I just tremendously enjoyed from you and from the guests on our podcast here. So it's been a blast for me.
Yeah, that's cool you say that. I mean, yeah, humility is a big deal. And the first thing that I was taught this by my parents, or at least my mother for sure. The first thing you put on every day is your smile.
Yeah.
And you can wear it every day, and you should. So, I think that goes along with humility and making friends, not enemies. In love relationships, because life is quick, and let's make the best of it when we're doing our tour of duty.
I love it. Brent, as we wind down here, you've had an amazing career, amazing life story here. Do any funny stories come to mind? Anything that you've encountered, over the years? It could be work related, personal. I always love to hear some humor.
All right. Yeah, you're sticking to our script, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, here's something that, and I just think real life, I mean, we make fun of ourselves. That's okay. So here a few weeks ago, my father-in-law was getting a hip replacement, and the hospital that he was having that done is just a matter of 5 minutes from our home here in Frisco, Texas. And so I jumped out of the shower, threw a new pair of sweatpants on. It was early in the morning. I had to bring something to my wife. So I run over there, drive over there in my truck, and I jump out of my truck, and right near the front entrance of the hospital, there are people coming and going. Of course, everyone's got their mask on, doing all that, and I put the mask on, and I jump out of my truck, and I guess I didn't know it at the time, because I was in a hurry to get over there, and those new sweatpants are a little bit too big, and they ended up around my ankles.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wasn't the only one that saw it. Trust me. And I pulled them. I looked down, laughed at myself, and thought, well, there's going to be some other people noticing, because it was a pretty busy place. Pulled them back up, kind of held on to them, and as my mother-in-law was coming out to get whatever I was delivering, I didn't tell her at the time, but I told my wife and my mother-in-law afterwards, and they got a pretty good kick out of it. So, hey, it happens.
Wow.
Daylight, daylight. Down there went, but my bloomers were in full view.
So if you get asked to tell a story about a time when you got caught with your pants down, you have a literal story there.
Good spin. Yes, that's
Hilarious.
For sure.
Too funny, man.
Right on. Well, yeah, as we wrap things up, Jared, I've never been on this side of the mic, and you said, hey, let's go for it. And again, as we finish a year that's been full of challenge and tribulations for lots of folks, and there are a lot of people out there suffering in ways they would never have dreamed, 9 months ago. Whether it's job loss or losing people to in the pandemic, because of the pandemic, and just those things that mount up, and but there's also great things out there that we see people that are super positive, and I think if we have enough of those people around us, and first of all, it starts with us, and being positive, and I think we've garnered new relationships, via the podcast and whatever else that we're doing in our day-to-day work lives. But it's been pretty cool. And again, as I mentioned early on, a lot of great guests. We have I don't we're probably getting close to 10 guests already lined up yet here for soon to be recorded podcasts and shows
Yeah.
and stuff. So that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, man, I appreciate the kind words. Probably way too kind, but it's been fun, and I look forward to as we continue working on breaking business barriers and doing what it is that we do, and looking forward to making more new friends and being in new places once we can finally get out and spread our wings a little bit more here in 2021.
Well, I want to thank you for what you do. I know that, as you mentioned, you don't do this. You've had opportunities to monetize the show, and you do this truly to help people. And I just want to thank you for that. And really enjoyed having you on your own show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, you're and I enjoy having you on. Can't say that enough. And I think we do a little pitter patter back and forth, and we have some fun with it, and we'll continue. We'll continue having some cool people on. Maybe make a few mistakes along the way, but I like the fact that we don't edit it. I don't know why I'm so steadfast on that, but no edits. It's not all prettied up, and not to say that it won't ever, but it's just raw, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
All right, my brother. All right, is good seeing you as we do at least once a week for sure. And as we wrap it up, again, this is episode number 86 of Breaking Business Barriers with Brent Duhaime and Jared Ty. And whatever you do, it is definitely onward and upward.